Thank you, everyone, for joining me during this very difficult time of COVID-19. We decided to create content that is especially tailored to the current difficulties people are facing. These are important conversations, and that is why I am really excited to speak with my guest today. Welcome, Madison Papp. Hi, Madison. Madison, you're a private chef and a recipe developer based in New York City. You have an amazing story to tell, which I can't wait to get into it, that will inspire people. But first, I always start the show with my first question: what do you believe?
So one thing that I love to think about is creating a wonderland in any environment I'm in, whether that's my bedroom, my kitchen, someone else's kitchen, how you take any space and be creative in it, make magic, and really make it feel not just like home, but a special home.
Amazing. So could you walk us through how you did that and what really inspired you to do that?
Yeah, I would say that I started creating these separate worlds for myself when I was really young. I mean, it started with playing with Barbie dolls and creating magic castles in my bedroom. And I would just zone out for hours and have this great space for creativity and play. And I got to really connect with that side of myself when I was sick. I was actually sick twice in my life. Once when I was about 7 years old, I was diagnosed with epilepsy. And it took me out of school. And even I wasn't even allowed to participate in certain classes at school, like gym class. I couldn't have play dates unless they were supervised. And it was a very difficult time. And so during that time, I leaned on my imagination quite a bit when I had that time to myself, when I wasn't at a doctor's office or getting some sort of treatment. And then later on in life, when I was in my early 20s, I was diagnosed with Lyme disease and autoimmune conditions as a result of that Lyme disease. And I, again, was spending much of my time getting treatment or in a doctor's office or just feeling awful and sick in bed. And so I learned to create these micro worlds, and it really got me through that time.
Amazing. What an experience. So during this time right now, I mean, building these worlds, I think is incredibly important, because in this isolation that everyone's feeling, I think, some people are just feeling incredibly stuck and not really knowing how to sort of deal with, the walls that are around them that are closing in. Can you maybe take us through, like, give some advice about how they can sort of use that blue sky time to sort of dream and think about and create the things that maybe will inspire them and help them get through the day?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things since I'm a chef and I love to cook, and food has always been a space of comfort for me. When I was sick with Lyme disease, my diet was altered quite a bit just to support my healing process. And the same happened to me when I had epilepsy when I was younger. And because I couldn't eat sugar, for example, or I couldn't eat certain foods, or I was avoiding foods, it allowed me to go to that space of, hey, how can I substitute? How can I create something delicious out of what I have? And that can trickle down in any world. You can have a world where maybe that's art for you. Right now I'm wearing a tie-dye t-shirt. I made this the other week out of an old white t-shirt, and I took turmeric, the old turmeric that was about to expire, in my spice cabinet.
Wow.
I used some, like a red berry tea. I used hibiscus and some food dye. And I made this tie-dye t-shirt, right? So you can create art projects for yourself. I've seen some people with their children creating these beautiful tents and forts out of sheets and things. And I really do encourage people that you don't need to have this big adventure and experience to make your life feel meaningful and worthwhile. You can create incredible adventures, incredible experiences in your imagination, in your head. Maybe for some people, that's even writing a story, right? I know some of my friends right now, one of them's writing a children's book. I know another person has learned how to paint. Someone else is learning a new language. And I think that's really important. It's just to keep yourself going, however small or big your world may be. And regardless if you're confined to a small studio apartment, or maybe a house that isn't near a lot of people, you can still have those moments where you can look out your window and engage and be in that really wonderful space.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Wow. That was so beautifully said and poignant. I couldn't agree with you more. I think, it's interesting. I was having this conversation with a friend of mine, and I think that some people are pushing themselves. Well, I haven't written the great novel yet, and I haven't written that piece of music, and they're musicians. And I think that some people can really connect to that creativity, and others, there's the fear. I think that's because I think there's some fear, and which is creating that inertia and of not being able to kind of get up and create. And I completely empathize with that. So I know that's. I think we probably freak out first, and the freak out could last a week and then get to the creativity. It's okay to freak out at first and feel all the feels and feelings, and then get to the creation.
There's something I would like to speak to about that creation and feeling a bit stir crazy. That's something I absolutely went through, especially when I had Lyme disease. There were days where I couldn't get out of bed. There were days where I lost the ability to read, to write, to speak, to walk. So I truly was, for moments, trapped in my body. And what I did is I created these little fantasies in my head, adventures, places I would go, trips I would travel on. And that's something that I felt was quite helpful for me. But the other thing that I would like to add is that what's unique about this situation is, globally, we're really all in this together. And that's lovely. But for so many people who have illnesses that follow them around every day, that keep them confined, it can be isolating on a whole other level. So I think it's also really important to take a moment to think about your isolation and the level of it. And then how can you take that up a notch? How can you make that special? How can you refine it to the point where you feel good in yourself and your soul?
Oh, so true. Thank you for that. It's absolutely true. Thank you. This is such an important conversation right now. And I'm filled with gratitude for all of what you're saying, because people, I need to hear it. We are all in this together, and it is time to lean on each other, and it doesn't have to be something that's a solo project either. You can create with people, because there's time, and I believe that I know for me, waking up with a purpose for the day, an intention for the day, at the end of the day I want to accomplish X. It really helps me focus on something and create purpose. Aside from this podcast, which to me is all about purpose, hearing all of your what your purpose in life is, and all of the guests, it's an incredible opportunity to get that out to others. Now just kind of rolling it back a little bit to, this is like the bigger. Thank you for the bigger conversation of what is to be confined and all that you went through. Just to sort of, you hear people say, oh, but I'm like, here I am, I'm gaining weight. What do I do? I can't move. I can't exercise. I'm afraid to walk outside. I mean, what do you say to the people who are at home and, they want to stay healthy?
Right.
And, of course, now there's a financial situation as well, right, that most people are going through. So they can't really afford, is whether it's organic products or produce. So talk to me about what people can do to sort of feel good about what they're eating, even though they may not have access to a lot of the foods that normally would be healthy.
Of course. Yeah. I think the one thing that's amazing that we all have access to is Google, and it's free. And I think that finding out through Google or Twitter or social media or reaching out to friends how you can get access to things on a budget. I've seen so many posts and stories and articles about people who are stepping up during this time and providing individuals access to healthy food. I think that's really important. I also think that, if you have a very strict budget for the week, planning ahead, thinking about when you are going grocery shopping, what are the things that you can buy that will really nourish your body? Maybe instead of reaching for a box of cookies that's, $3 a box, reach for, a $2 or $3 big giant bunch of kale. Little things like that can make a huge difference.
Great. I love that. Can you also kind of go into that a bit more in terms of, everyone says, buy frozen vegetable, but could you just give me a breakdown of what should you absolutely avoid? What are the misconceptions about being in this situation and what to buy and what not to buy? I feel like there's a lot of confusion there, for me anyway. I don't know about others, but.
Yeah. I think one thing that, in terms of what to buy in terms of nutrition or.
Yeah, it's do you buy, beans in the can as opposed to beans that are, dried beans? I mean, just things that you kind of reach for because you're in a panic mode, and then things that you should really just think for a second. Like, don't buy that because it's loaded with sodium and you're going to feel bloated and it's not going to make you feel good.
Right.
Those sort of options.
Absolutely. I mean, I would definitely lean on whole foods. And actually, what's interesting about beans in a can is that they are in a can and they're connected to a water source that they're floating around in, and that expands the beans. So if you get dried beans that you can soak overnight, you're actually going to get a greater volume. And sometimes dried beans can be cheaper than a can of beans. So that's something I would definitely recommend. Also, things that really puff up, like a healthy grain or quinoa or rice, that's something that I would definitely lean on.
So I hear you have a recipe for us.
Yes, I do.
Tell us.
So one thing that I love to do is have little tonics or juices that I drink during the day that aren't focused on a ton of sugar or anything artificial, but have nutrients in it that really hydrate my body. It's something that's a great alternative to soda, because I don't know about you, but I get really bored drinking water all day, every day. Yes, drink water. Absolutely. It's great. Awesome. But if you're looking for something special, and that's just something that I think about often, is how can I make my day extra special? And sometimes creating a beverage, even if you don't have time or the space to create a whole meal, is still a beautiful thing. So I created a recipe, which is a ginger citrus juice with calendula, but you can also use any other tea, and I'll have suggestions for that too in the recipe. But I wanted to create something that's nourishing and healthy and delicious and exciting to drink. I also recommend adding some vodka to that, so the drink can go from day to night.
Oh my God, I love that.
I personally love. I love an outfit that can go day to night. I love a makeup look that can go day to night. So this drink can go day to night. which I think is uplifting, especially during this time, if people want to get into that mood and that mode and feel extra special. Because if you make a big picture of it, you know, from 8 to 5, you're drinking it virgin, and then you make it super adult after 5 p.m. So.
Oh my God, Madison, that rocks. I love that. Yeah, that's perfect. I would definitely make that today. Sorry?
Yeah, it only has 5 ingredients too. It's just ginger, which you can find at most small convenience stores or your grocery store, orange, lemon, honey, and then calendula. But if you can't find calendula flowers or calendula tea, you can use another tea. So it's this great, I guess it's a more elevated version of Arnold Palmer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I love it.
But I chose calendula to use because it is a flower with a ton of really wonderful herbal properties. And it's, you know, it's a flower that's been studied by modern medical science, and you can go on the website for Mount Sinai, and they'll even have description about calendula and its uses. So I wanted to add something into the drink that brings a greater awareness to herbals and supplements too. That's something that I believe very deeply in. I think you always need to see a medical doctor, but I think that herbs and plants have a ton of power too.
Oh, for sure. I agree. For their healing properties, and yes, absolutely. So I'm just curious, what's your typical day of eating?
Oh, it definitely varies. And it also depends on what time I go to sleep. I am a night owl.
You cook a lot late at night?
I do. And also I will stay up till 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 in the morning, just having that creative time to myself. And then maybe I'll sleep from 6 to 12, and then I won't eat till 3. But sometimes I have a normal day where I'm waking up at 9 and, you know, I'm going to sleep by 11 or 12. But a typical breakfast, I actually love a savory breakfast. For example, this morning I had some fresh Swiss chard, and I cooked the Swiss chard in a homemade broth, chicken broth that I made with some lemon peel and some chili. And then I added this grain that I recently discovered called fonio, which is an African grain. It's gluten-free. I actually prefer it to quinoa. You can find on Amazon fonio, Fonio, and it's delicious. So I had that for breakfast, savory breakfast. But I also love doing a green juice, and I love a smoothie, but only if I add a ton of spirulina and chlorella and ginger in there, because I want to feel that smoothie is hyper healthy, regardless if that's in my head or not. I don't love super carby, sugary things in the morning. I feel like that doesn't carry me through the day. But of course, you know, on the occasion, I will indulge in a stack of pancakes, and I will indulge in a delicious croissant if I get my hands on one. But these days, I'm eating simply too. And that's the other thing I want to talk about. I think, you know, people sometimes are thinking, okay, I'm home now, I have to create these like big meals that take so much time and effort. You can create simple, delicious, nourishing, healthy food in a pinch. You know, my breakfast this morning, it took me about 10 minutes to make, max. Fonio, I love that grain because it cooks up in 6 minutes or less, actually. It's super easy, and you can't, it's impossible to burn or mess up. And I love ingredients like that. It's a real star.
Oh, game changer.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, now I'm like, I want to know everything that you eat. Like, uncover things that I've never even heard of that before.
And and the other thing I'm doing is I'm saving a lot of stuff. So for example, if I'm putting lemon juice in my water, I'm actually taking the peel and I'm putting it in my freezer. And then if I make stock, or if I just want hot water with a hint of lemon, I'm putting the peel back in there from the freezer. And that's been something I love doing too, saving as much as I can.
Yes, I'd love to hear more about this and how to create recipes from things that you already have cooked with or your leftovers, and being creative in that way.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things I'm doing, and you can look online. So Tyler Florence, I believe it's on the Food Network website. He has a recipe for chicken stock that you make with a whole chicken, and then after you just take the skin off the chicken, and then you take the chicken and you can put it back in the stock, and then you have chicken soup. But then you also have all this amazing stock and broth that you didn't have to buy and lug from the grocery store. I actually, hopefully the broth and stock companies don't hate on me, but it's cheaper. It's much cheaper to make your own stock than it is to buy, like the $5 or $6 carton, however much it is. And it tastes better and it's more nourishing, in my opinion. So that's something I've been doing, is making all of my own stocks and all my own broths and storing them in the freezer or the refrigerator. And, I also, another thing I really have loved doing is just taking things like berries that are maybe a little bit past their prime and then going in and, freezing them or making a jam. And that's something that's been really fun to do too. When you have something in your refrigerator or that is about to go bad, freeze it. That's something I'm a huge proponent of. Don't let things go to waste, and things can work themselves out. Another thing I've been doing is I've been making my own butter, because I don't want to carry a lot of butter back from the grocery store. So I'll buy a combination of cream and sour cream. And I'll be making really beautiful cultured butter at home. But then the milk that's left over, because when you make butter, the fat separates from liquid, and you're left with this, really beautiful milky buttermilk, essentially.
All I want is bread and butter right now. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I can try. I just made a loaf of bread. So that's why I'm thinking about bread and butter right now.
I want to be at your house.
Yeah, but I've been taking the leftover milk from the butter making and culturing it. Now it's buttermilk that cultured buttermilk that I have in my refrigerator, and then I'm putting that back into the bread I'm making. So creating these really wonderful cycles with food is a great thing. There's so much creativity out there, and again, although I am a chef and I do that professionally, I'm a huge proponent of Google and YouTube and Instagram. These resources are here and they're free. So I really do encourage people to go into a tunnel, dive into the internet, and explore. There's so much information out there, and there's so many amazing voices.
Oh my God. And you're an amazing voice. Thank you for your voice. Really. Tell everyone what your Instagram is so that they'll follow you.
Yeah. So you can follow me at Madison Papp, MadisonPapp.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This was incredibly enlightening, and you're just a beautiful soul. Thank you so much for your insight and sharing your story and wonderful recipes. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And I can't wait to do a live with you
I know, it's going to be really fun.
A very short time. I know. Yeah. I'm excited. Thank you, Madison. And I'll speak with you very, very soon. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.